Hi there, Lindy Goodall here with Lindy G Embroidery. Have you ever needed a design for something but couldn't find just the right one in your stash? What if you could make it yourself by using pre-made bits and just putting them together for the perfect fit? That's what I'm going to show you how to do here. This is part one of a two-part video where I'm going to show you how to customize a design from pre-digitized elements and turn a t-shirt along with a couple strips of fabric into a quick and easy child's dress. In this part, we'll create and stitch the design. I have some tricks for lining and hooping that you might find useful for other projects as well, so hang with me here. In the second part, or the second video rather, I'll go over quickly how to make the dress. I've had lots of questions about this project at shows, but since not all of you are likely to be interested in making the dress, I'll just break that out separately. The dress is really quick and easy if you don't do those fiddly little scallops on the flounces like I did. In fact, you can easily whip this up in an afternoon or an evening. So let's see what we'll do. We'll start off in Essentials and we'll merge in 3 designs. Now I am using Essentials, and you can probably do this in any other customizing program you might have. Don't use a digitizing program, because a lot of those programs, if you're opening stitch files, they'll just kind of booger up the stitches. So you don't ever want to use a digitizing program with outside designs. We're going to use copy, paste, rotate, and mirror to build our designs. Then we'll manually resequence the design elements to optimize for sewing efficiency. Yes, I know there's color sort, but this will be better, and it's a good thing to know how to do. Then we're going to check the stitching order so we know how it's going to sew before we sew it and make any changes there. And then we'll apply new thread colors and optimize the color counts. So then after we create our design, of course we need to sew it. So then I'll show you how to get the design stitched where you want it to go, and how to prepare a small tubular knit for embroidery because we can't stick it between the rings of the hoops. This technique also works for little baby onesies and other little tubular items. We'll talk about stabilizing and hooping, and then we'll make the dress in a separate video. So let's see what we'll need. You'll need a t-shirt. You're going to embroider it first. And if you're going to do the dress, you'll want to get your fabric first so that you can pick your designs accordingly and match your thread colors and that sort of thing. And for this little dress, I think it's about a size 3 if I remember right. I used 1/4 yard each of 3 fabrics. Those are full quarter yards, not fat quarters. And standard embroidery supplies plus a fusible no-show mesh type cutaway. I use Sulky Soft and Sheer. You'll need a standard tearaway, Tessa, which is temporary embroidery spray adhesive, and I use KK2000, double stick embroidery tape, and suitable embroidery threads. You'll also need customizing software and the designs. So I'm using, as I said before, Embrilliance Essentials, and I'll be using the designs from Delicate Roses building blocks from Lindy G Embroidery, which are only $10 for 20 designs. So here's that collection. It's got 20 designs. They look kind of big here, but actually they're quite small, and they're perfect for little heirloom projects, and you can just combine them and drop them in here and there. They're lovely on baby things. And here you can see where I've used just 3 designs to build my new design, and I've designed it so it kind of curves around the neckline there. You don't have to be real precise about that, but it fits really nicely around the neckline. So we're just going to select some designs and we're going to customize. Okay, I'm in Essentials, and if you have Embrilliance Essentials, you may notice that I have a few more tools up here on my toolbar, and it's because I have all the modules installed. And once you get started, you'll really want to add on some of the other modules as you progress, because they do things that you really need to do as you become more advanced with embroidery. So let's open up the design I've already made, just so we have a reference here. And I'll just click on the open icon there. And I have it on the desktop just to make it easier to find. And there it is. So this is what we're going to build. When you use open in Essentials, you can open a stitch file, or this is a working file, a BE file, because I've already composed it and saved it that way. But it's going to open whatever you choose in a new window. We want to create a new document and merge in our design. So I'll do Command New, Command N, and I'll click on the Merge Designs button. And here I'll select the designs that I want to work with. So merge lets you bring in multiple files into a document. And I want design number 1. I'm going to hold down the command key and design number 9 and 11. So I've got 3 of them selected there, and I'll click import, and they all come in and they're piled up in the center. Now it's nice to work with a hoop displayed because that will give you some reference as to how big your design is, so you don't make it too big or too small, because you can be zoomed in and not really know what you're doing there. So I'm going to turn on the hoop because I've had the display off. We'll just draw a hoop, and I have a 5x7 hoop, which is what I want, but I want it oriented horizontally. So I'm going to go back into preferences, and I'm just going to click on rotate 90. And now my hoop's oriented horizontally. So there are all our designs. Let's move them out so we can see what we're working on here. And I'm going to start with this one, and I just want to rotate it some, maybe about like that. Then we'll move this one into place. We want to rotate that. And when you click on when you have the design selected, you can see that there are bounding boxes, and these dots resize it, or squares resize it. This little blue dot is a rotation tool. So you can either rotate by degrees or 90 degrees or incrementally, or you can drag it. So I like to just kind of drag it. So I'm going to copy, paste, and there is my copy right there. Now it stacks it right on top of the old one. So if you're not careful, you can end up with a whole big pile of these and not even know it. So I'll drag that guy down and rotate him a bit. I always like to keep an eye over here on the objects pane, because that shows me what's really going on the screen. Because here I don't know what order they're sewing in. I don't know if they're stacked on top of each other. Here I can tell. So I think I want to rotate that a tad bit more, and maybe rotate the whole group a bit. Maybe about like that. So what you're going to be doing here is just playing around with these until you get it the way you like it. And notice I'm only doing one side, because now I'm going to build the other side this way. I'm going to drag a selection around all of them, copy, paste, and mirror. And looky there, there's the whole other side. Now I just need to drag this guy into place, rotate. I can kind of use the ruler guides there to make sure it's pretty straight. And let's move it over that way a bit. And I'm going to do center in hoop. Now our design is centered. So there's our design, but we're not ready to sew yet because it's not going to sew very efficiently. And if we look over here in our color sequences, we can see we have green, pink, green, pink, green, pink, green, pink, and we have a lot of colors going on there. We only have a 65,000 or 6,500 rather stitch design, so with this many thread changes for just 2 colors, you're going to spend more time changing threads than you will stitching. So let's fix that. Yes, there's color sort, but this is sometimes a better way to do things. But first, let's go into the stitch simulator, and you can see how it's going to do green, pink, and then it's going to be jumping all around. What we want to do is have the green sew down this way and then back up this way. Then we'll do the pinks from here around that way, and then we'll do this last flower. And I'm going to set that last flower to a different color. So let's get out of there. We'll go over here to the objects pane, and I'm just going to start moving all the greens to the front. And now I'm down at the bottom, but if I select this next green, see it's back there at the top. So we want to work back the other way. So we'll just work from the bottom up, moving those guys. And now we want to have this pink flower, which is this guy, and then we want that one, and then we want this one. So I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to say move last. So you can either move with the menus, which all I'm doing is selecting it, right clicking, and picking what order I want. So let's go back to the stitch simulator, and I'm just going to drag across here really quickly, and you can see that had something weird happen there. That bottom one is out of sequence. So we can kind of go back through here and move things around, and I want to find this one and just move it there. And let's check it again. And when I moved that, I got the pink out of order. Okay, so now we're back in shape. And I wanted to change that one to a different color of pink. So let's just pick a different color pink. And there we have it. Now if I wanted to change the greens so that they were going to match my color scheme or whatever, I could select all of them, click on one color, and pick my different green. So they're currently cucumber melon. Let's pick light jade. And now they're all a different green. You do the same thing with the flowers. So pick the flowers in the objects pane, one color, and maybe we'll do peaches and cream. There's our design. It's all ready to sew. Technically we should test sew this. I'm not going to test sew this because I've already test sewed all these pieces. I know that they work, and we have not resized the design. When you resize a design, it changes the stitches, and you really should test sew it to make sure that nothing got clobbered. All we've done here is bring them in, combine them, reorder them, and kind of change your position. We rotated, we mirrored, that kind of stuff. When you do things like that, you're really not changing the stitches and the design. Well, you could be if you're working in a digitizer program, but in this, you're not. So I know it's going to be okay. So I actually skipped the test sewing. I'm really pretty fanatical about test sewing. I want to make sure that things work right before I sew it on my final project. But we're good to go now. So I'm just going to save this for my machine. Save stitch and work in file. And I'm going to sew on my baby lock, so I'll pick PES. And give it a name. We'll call it Rose 3. Because I think I have some other roses out there. And now I'm ready to sew. So let's go talk about what we need to do about that. Okay, we've got our design ready. We're ready to stitch it. So we have to think about a few things here. One is we have a t-shirt, it's a knit, and they stretch. So we need to think about stabilizing. And you can see on this little picture over here, I've printed out my template for my design, and I've got it taped on my t-shirt. This is going to help me place it in the hoop, but it also gives me an idea if I got that thing shaped right in the software. Because when you're working in software and you don't have the neckline traced or drawn or something that you have a reference point, sometimes it doesn't work out quite right. So I like to print it out and see if it's going to work, and if not, I just go back and tweak it a little bit. T-shirts are tricky. They can, if they're not stabilized properly, you'll get puckering, you'll get pieces that don't line up. I've selected these designs because I know they'll work well on t-shirts. They're lightweight, they're kind of open, they're not a big filled in area with lots of stitches. We don't have any running stitch outlines. I hate running stitch outlines, especially on knits, because they're hard to keep lined up. We also have an issue that this is a small shirt and it's not going to be able to be held between the rings of the hoop, so we're going to have to float it somehow. Got some tricks for that. And when I made this dress, I cut my t-shirt afterwards. If I knew I was going to make a dress, I might consider cutting the t-shirt ahead of time so I had less bulk in the hoop. But, you know, it's good to know how to do one with lots of bulk in the hoop anyway. So here's what I've done. I've hooped my tearaway stabilizer. I don't know if you can see the lines I've drawn on it, but I've drawn some guidelines to connect the centering marks on my hoop. That just makes it easy to get everything all lined up. What I don't show you here is I also took that hoop stabilizer and I laid it over my template so that it was centered on my template where I was going to do my stitching, and I just kind of traced around with a pencil around the outline of my design. Because see in that bottom picture, that tape, you do not want to stitch through that tape because it'll gum up your needle, break your thread, you have to throw the needle away, and ugh. So by tracing around my design, I know exactly where my design is going to be. I can put the tape outside that little mark, and I know that it's going to secure my item the best way possible, which is close to the design, but it won't interfere with the design. Then what I've done is I've taken my fusible no-show mesh and I've ironed it to the back of my t-shirt on the front, back of the front, where I'm going to embroider, so that it's stabilizing my t-shirt. Because remember I said I had a tearaway in the hoop? Tearaways are not good to stitch on for knits because they tear away because of needle perforations. And if the perforations are enough and it starts tearing away before the design is finished, your design is going to be all out of whack. So I've prepared my t-shirt, I've prepared my hoop, I've got my tape on my hoop, and then I'm going to kind of, while my t-shirt's kind of inside out there, I'm going to roll it into position. Now another thing you can do is you can trace the lines, your centering marks from your template, which is printed, which is taped to the front, and also trace those onto the back of your stabilizer so you can see how to line that up with the lines on your hoop. So yeah, it sounds futzy, but I want everything perfect. So then you're just going to kind of roll it into place. This is what it'll look like from the front. Now see all those clips around there? You've got to kind of scoop out a little bowl so that you're sewing into that area. And the clips, normally a hoop would help keep the fabric from falling under the needle, but this is just too small to get into one of these hoops. So I'm using the clips. I've also got some pins in there. You might try some tape. You're probably going to have to still hold it while it sews. And, you know, sticking your fingers under there is not always a good idea, so popsicle sticks work really well. A chopstick might work. I like the popsicle stick because it has sort of a flat area. And then you just stitch it. Now the difference between that top picture and the bottom picture is on that bottom picture, see that little figure 8 snowman looking thing in the middle? That is the target sticker that's available on some Baby Locks and Allissimos, or some Baby Locks and Brother machines, so that the camera in the machine can line that up. Now if you have one of those things, you can probably skip some of these steps I've just shown you, but most machines don't have those. So I would go through the other stuff just to get everything lined up. So now we're almost ready to sew. We're going to put the hoop in the machine. I'm going to check that template one more time. When the machine starts, it should start at the middle of the design. And so what you can do is see if the needle is aligned exactly over the center of those crosshairs. If not, you'll need to do some adjusting. Then you're going to remove the template, press the start button, and embroider. And do sit by your machine and make sure that the garment doesn't somehow jump under the needle or those clips don't get caught, because you really cannot rip out stitches on knits. I mean, you can rip them out, but there's going to be holes there. There's going to be needle damage. So you really want to avoid that at all costs. And besides, embroidering is really not fun. So when it's done, you're going to remove the tearaway, trim the cutaway to about 1/4 inch or so around the design, and your t-shirt is done. So if you're just making a t-shirt, you're done. You're ready to go. But if you want to make the dress, hang on to the next video, and I'll show you how to do that. So this is just how easy it is to customize your own designs. You pick from here and there. It's kind of like making a bouquet. You know, you pick and you rearrange them and get them the way you like, and you might do some resizing. And remember, if you resize, you've changed the design, and you need to test sew it first. And really should probably test sew anyway. It's just, a good thing to do. This set has 20 designs in it. They're only $10, which makes the designs 50 cents each. So when you figure out all the things you can make with this that won't be like everybody else's, it's a real bargain. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.